So we're now going to look at the Lely Discovery Collector, which was launched by Lely 4 years ago. So it works in a similar fashion to the Lely Discovery, but as good as the Lely Discovery was, there were a number of yards where it wasn't fit for purpose. It didn't suit, mainly because the client had too much solid floor. And with the standard machine, you do need slats at a certain point or a channel to lose the muck. So 4 years ago, Lely launched the Lely Discovery Collector, and that was designed to work on yards that had predominant of solid floors. So it does the same job as the standard machine, but it has the big addition of a vacuum pump. So it hoovers up the muck when it's on solid floors, vacuums it up, and then it dumps it over slatted areas, or dumps it into a dump hole. So if you have a shed with no slats, you'd actually have to have some sort of a dump hole that it can go to near the charging point. When the tank is full, it can dump them up. Works extremely well. Guys love the fact as well that it can do the crossover points like the previous models, and they love the fact that it can cover that large area of solid floors. You can collect up to 360 litres of muck before it has to go back to the dump point or the slats. There's water nozzles at the front and at the back for softening up the muck and giving you an exceptionally good clean. Great flexibility if you're converting sheds, because it can move between sheds. It can do crossover points. It can do the back, the front, and the sides. So it can save farmers having to make huge modifications to fit in other systems because of its flexibility. And it can work in quite wide passageways. Again, we would need a site visit to see if it's suitable for your farm. But there's very few that we can't actually work with. We may need to fit some timbers in some strategic points, or what we call bump stops, to keep the kind of cage in the machine to keep it within a certain area. But it's generally low cost, and it's never much of a challenge for the client. Here you see some examples of sheds. This was our engineer there is installing the charging point for the collector on this particular farm. So this particular client only had a tank at one end, this near side, but the collector was able to vacuum up the muck and all the solid passageways and at the very bottom of the shed. So this client is feeding both sides of the shed and at the very back. So the Lely collector vacuums up the muck over the solid areas and then dumps it over the slats. And there you see on the right the type of quality of job it does. So great flexibility. Lower running costs. Uses about 3 kilowatts per day. Costs you about 60 cents a day for every day it's in work. All you're doing is charging a 12-volt battery. So compared to other systems on the market, and this isn't a criticism, just a differentiation, it would cost a fraction of the cost as regards powering the system. A very, very, very efficient use of power. Can operate between multiple sheds. We have some clients that's actually going between 3 sheds, and they have like a pet flap between sheds where it can go outside the shed, go along the outside wall and go back into another shed. With the collector, we definitely need a site visit, because we do need to do what we call a capacity calculation, because we want to kind of see what area of solid have you, what area slats, what's your stocking rate, what type of diet are the cows on, just to make sure, you know, it's not oversold, and to manage clients' expectations. It can do an exceptionally good job, but like every system, there are limitations. Here you see a client, he's got over 200 cubicles on this shed. The tank is just on the right-hand side where you see the feed passage. And that's the only tank on the farm. This is actually a robot client of ours that is 3 robots in, but the collector is doing an exceptionally good job for him. Admittedly, in the summer months, the cubicle areas are shut off and it's just working around the front, but in the winter, it's working in the whole shed. And as we said already, you know, you can do all sides of the shed. You got huge flexibility in where you can go and what you can do. And in some farms, we're doing the collecting areas as well. But as I said before, we would need a site visit just to confirm what, you know, the limitations might be for your particular farm. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a testimonial video, a short video from 2 dairy farmers. One of them, Dennis Condren, was one of the first Lely collectors we installed I'd say about 4 years ago, if not a bit more. So he's a spring calving, grass-based man. He's 2 robots in. He was a new entrant. He extended a shed. He'd explain his own situation. And then we're going to hear from Derek Holleran. And Derek is an indoor herd, different type of situation, very high yielding, very high performing cows. Hygiene is very important to him because these ladies will be working hard indoor all the time. He's very keen in cow comfort. He wants clean cows. He wants little lameness. He wants low cell counts and low mastitis. So he looked at a lot of options and he settled on the Lely Collector, and he'll talk about his experience. So enjoy the video.
My name is Dennis Condren. I'm classical Screggan here in Tullamore, and went into the milk 6 years ago, and we're milking 132 cows on 2 Lely astronaut robots at the minute. We started off with 1 robot, and we had 66 heifers on it the first year, and we put in the second robot the second year, and we pushed it up then, up to year 5 then we had it up at 132 cows. And we put up extended the shed in year 2, and we got this Lely Discovery for picking up the slurry and all that. But the main reason we probably got the Discovery was in the summertime, there's a big passageway in front of the robots where the cows would be standing, and there'd be a lot of muck there over the summer months. So we can put it on the summer route then is just the slats here. It does this area here where the cows is walking, and in front of the robots. So that was probably the main reason like we went with the Discovery in the first place. The extension we put on the slatted tank is the whole length of the shed, and it's gone over that way in an L shape. The Discovery is able to go the full length of the shed, which is 120 foot, and it's able to get the whole length of it and back out onto the tank then and empties. The way the shed's designed, like it just comes out and it goes under gates. If we have the shed, it's handy where the shed's divided, and it just works away on its own, like, and it just vacuums the slurry up into a tank. I think it's 320 litre tank, and when it's full then it goes and empties onto the slats, and there's a water bladder on it as well, like, and when it goes back into dock it fills, like, and when the water, it puts a spray out onto the slat and keeps it clean. There's 150 cubicles in the shed. Yeah, it works, it cleans it we have it set for 4 times a day in the winter time, and keeps it very clean, you know. We had it set up for Dahamatic scrapers, like, and probably the reason we went with the Discovery was they're only coming in at the time, and we had the tractor here probably for over a year, and the reason we went with it was the big space in front of the robots, and say time in the summertime that it was going to be awkward with the scrapers. You're going to have to go down the passageways and come across, and with the cow's feet and all that, like, getting damaged with the track and all that, we decided that we'd wait for this Discovery. We have it in now 4 years, like, you know, and the cost of it, like, electricity wise, I think it's about 80 euro a year. It's just charges a battery, and this is our 4th year now, and the battery is still working perfect, like, you know. And as regards maintenance, we keep it clean every now and again, and the blades, the rubbers on it for doing the scraping, like, we've only changed them once, so we changed them after 2 years. In a new shed or that, if concrete is rough and all that, it probably would wear them out that bit quicker, but if the concrete is smooth enough and all that, like, they work okay, like, you know, 2 years would be good, you know. So the maintenance on them, Lily comes out and services it once a year, like, you know. You'd have a few bits and pieces maybe during the year, but nothing major, you know. But Overall, be very happy with the way it works, like, and no breakdowns or anything like that.
Derek Holleran is my name. I'm farming here in Longford. We're operating an indoor system, feeding silage and meal. We are milking here 2 years next January. We installed one robot and a Lely collector. The nice part of this collector is that you can have as long a solid floor as you want, in that it sucks the slurry as it's moving on the solid floor, turns round at the other end and comes back, and as soon as it hits the slatted tank, it'll dump what had sucked off the solid floor into the slatted tank as it's passing. So you can have quite a number of bays away from the slats and still be able to keep it perfectly clean. Behind the cubicle beds is the most ran places. We'll say where the cows are feeding, it might only get ran twice a day, but where they're about to stand up onto a cubicle bed, that gets ran a lot more often. The reason for installing the collector was purely cleanliness and hygiene purposes, as we were in all the time. It was very important that the beds never got dirty. It goes out every hour. It's out scraping sections of the cubicles. So it could be doing the centre passage or the side passages. So there's no more than 3 hours between it having been somewhere, which never leaves you with any amount of dungs on the ground, so that when the cows are walking, they're not walking it up onto the beds. I didn't like the ordinary scrapers purely because of the pool of slurry that ran in front of them, and then cows standing through the pool and walking across the scrapers. So it was I went sort of straight for the Lely collector, and we're feeding. This shed we can feed total the way around, so with 3 sides of feeding. We actually have about 2 feed spaces for every cow, and that the collector can scrape perfectly then the whole way around, everywhere is spotless. I couldn't keep this as clean any other way. A couple of times a week you clean there's wee sensors on the side that may get dirty. If a cow dungs beside it, it can splash in. So you just twice a week you'd run a bit of hand towel or something like that on those 2 sensors. Every couple of months you just calibrate it. It's a simple thing to do. You have to calibrate it as the tyres wear. It's not where it thinks it is, so you need to calibrate it every couple of months. Other than that, the rubber scrapers, if they get worn down, you change them. It's all simple stuff that you can do yourself. It's not difficult.
Thanks very much, folks. Thanks for your attention. Delighted to introduce Conor Clark. He's one of our senior engineers. I know he looks like a young fella, but he's almost 7 years experience with Lely Mullingar. Very well trained, very well educated, one of our experts in farm robotics and automation. So Conor, this is going to be like the rapid fire buzz around. We try to get through these as best we can, okay? And
yeah, I'll have a go ahead anyway.
So I've been writing down the questions as they've been coming in, so I'll try and bundle them as best I can. So the first question is from Tommy. What electrical supply do I need for the Discovery?
Yeah, so just 16 amp blue plug is what we usually suggest to the farmer. So it's a normal, just a 16 amp socket. That's all we need.
Good. We didn't mention during the presentations that either an engineer or the sales rep would have gone through with the customer where to put the charging point and what work needs to be done. So that would already agreed. So when the engineer goes to arrive on farm to fit the Discovery, which you can install the standard machine in one day, you know what you need to have done before we get there. And then another question from Tommy, Conor, is what size of slope can it handle?
I presume the standard collector, Niall, is 6 degrees, and then the collector can handle a little bit less. It's 3 degrees. So in some cases people would be worried about the slope, but sometimes when you go and look at the farm, there's another way to get around the other side of the slope, and you'd be able to clean the shed that way. So it's always, a site visit tells a lot, but 3 for a collector and 6 for a standard Discovery. Yeah.
Okay, 3 for collector, 6 for a standard Discovery. That's fine. A question from Finton: how many cubicles can one Discovery work in? So I'm guessing, Finton's asking how big of a cubicle shed can a standard Discovery work in?
Yeah, we put. I remember putting one in a big shed. Now it was all slatted, so there was over 200 cubicles. I think it was 240 cubicles it was cleaning. Now it was all slats. So obviously, if you had a bit of solid or crossovers or solid, it'd eat up a bit of time, and maybe you'd cover less. But like that was the most I ever done, and it was just all slats and that. So
yeah. No, we would have a good share of guys of well over 200 cubicles, and a standard Discovery. The collector will be a little bit different because it depends on how much slatted area you have and how much solid floor. So we have what we call a capacity calculator. So when we do a site visit, we look at the stocking rate, the number of cubicles, the area slats, and the area that's solid, and we can tell you then which machine would best suit your needs. A question from David: Conor, how do you control the Discovery?
So the Discovery is just controlled by an app on the phone. It's just Lely controlled. So you have your time paths. You can set your time paths, what time you want to do routes and what time you don't want to do routes. If you want to stop it when you're agitating, just go into the app and stop it. And then obviously if it gets lost for some reason, if there's an obstruction, you just have to go into your app and you just manually drive it back to the charger then. Okay. But it's all on the app, yeah.
All on an app on your phone. The older models, because there's a question here, another question from, it's Derek. How many years did the Discovery in the market? The Lely Discovery was actually launched in 2005, and I think there's machines in the north since 2005. But at that time, there's a little handheld controller with a wire, and we still have some of them, Conor, in the market that we're looking after.
No, we do. We have plenty of them with D-Link. You can upgrade them to Bluetooth, but the D-Link ones don't give bother, and it's just the same principle. You have, instead of your phone, you just have a handheld device, and you're just following around instead of using the phone. So
yeah,
it's the exact same layout.
Oh, you can upgrade it. I didn't even know that myself.
Well, there you are.
So yeah, Derek, the Discovery's in the market since 2005. So what's that? 16 years now. A question from Evan: Conor, what do most farmers have to change to get ready for a Discovery?
Yeah, mostly, Niall, it's just so all your gates have to be a minimum of 600 mil high, so the Discovery can get under them and there's no obstructions. I mean, if you wanted it to do under your drinkers, you'd have to lift them up to 600 as well. Maybe at the end of a passageway, if it was going outside or something, we'd need a bump stop, which would be just like a 6x3 timber, just so you can bump off as a reference point. And if you didn't want it to go outside a certain area, you could just put down a 6x3 timber either, and it's just acts as a boundary for it. So every farm is different, but obviously when you'd be there, you'd be telling them what they could and couldn't do.
A question from Cahill: can a Discovery operate off 2 charging points to increase its scraping area?
But presume he's on about a standard Discovery, but I don't see how that had increase the area that you could do now. I do know we have a couple of them that go from shed to shed, but it always starts and finishes at the same charger. I would just say no to that question, because I'm not saying it's not possible, but I can see how it had increased the area now. And it'd just be confusing for routing, and then for time paths as well. It only cause confusion.
One of the reasons Conor is a good engineer is he likes things to be reliable, so he would be conservative. But we haven't done that before, so I'm guessing we haven't done it because it's no better than having a single.
I can't see any benefit to it anyway.
I have a question here from Jim asking me to explain the finance offer. Jim, there's numerous ways numerous ways of financing any of the products, any of the Lely products. Originally, when we started in business in Lely Mullingar in 2012, it was mainly DLL, Delaga Landon, as our asset finance partner, and they're still tremendous partner. So you can hire purchase all the Lely products. You can have robots over 10 years. You can have other products over 5 years. So there's great options there. But if a person is drawing down the TAMS grant, they normally get a term loan off their bank. So the €5.70 or the €4, depending on what grant you're eligible for, what that was the net amount, the price net of the grant over 5 years. Some clients put them over 1 year, some clients put them over 5 years, but the €5.70 was a 5-year figure, and the €4 was if you're getting the 60% grant, if you're qualified as a young farmer. If you're not drawing down any grants, you can hire purchase it, no problem. For the grant, you need to be sure that you have no internal agitation points. So sometimes if internal agitation points in the cell in your shed, maybe you might be eligible for the TAMS grant. We're not sure if there's going to be grants next year. So as I said in the presentation, if you're considering investing in any of these farm automation type products, I would suggest get an application in this year, and at least it's there if you decide to proceed, because it's a considerable sum of money. It's a very good grant. It's been great for helping people improve their situation, improve their means of farming, and reducing the labour burden on their farms. Another question from Carl: have you any second-hand machines? That does happen from time to time, not that often. You heard Mervyn there, he has his in almost 9 years. It's working as good as the day it went in. If you wanted to trade it in, we'd be delighted to trade it in, and we'd find a home for it quite easily. Some of Conor's colleagues would recondition them here in Mullingar, and we'd put them out and we'd stand over them. So yeah, look, it is an option. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen from time to time. But if you're interested in the second hand, we'd put you on the list, and once one came in, we'd make you aware of it. A question from David: how does the collector deal with bits of silage or straw on scraper passage?
Yeah, well, you'd always have bits and pieces pulled in, David. Depends, like if it was through the diet feeder and it'd be chopped, like there'd be no bother. When it goes back to its dump station, when it's filling up with water, it's inclined to push all them bits out into the hole there. There's not much bother. The straw, obviously, if it was long and if there was a lot of it, I wouldn't like it. But what we've done in the past was, if there was an area of bedding coming out to the feed fence, we just put like a curb or a piece of timber down, just to, when she'd kick it, I'd get rid of the most of it. So it'll handle a certain amount of it. Yeah.
Very good. A question from Garrett. So I'm backtracking a little bit, only after coming in. Can the Discovery work around grazeway gates outside on solid floors?
Well, solid floors, depending on how much they are, a collector might be the better solution there. But we have collectors working around grazeways. What we'd need to do sometimes is put down a couple of timbers, to square it up. And then obviously where the cows are walking through, we'd leave a gap for them so they wouldn't be stepping over the timber. But no, we can send on videos of collectors working around grazeways. And if it was a Discovery, you'd need to have a tank fairly close by it. It just depends how much solid is there,
Can the collector, this is from Julie, can the collector navigate over a small step down from solid cubicles down to slats?
Well, so we just have to go back to the 3% fall. So if there was a step there, what lads would usually do is they'd ramp it down. Or else if they didn't like that idea, they'd ramp it down on one side. So the collector is 1.2 meters wide, so they might just make a ramp maybe 1.5 meters wide just to get it down. So 3% is that I just have to work it out. Like I need to know the depth of the step, and then I'd know how far she'd have to ramp it. So she can text us in there and we can find out or whatever.
Again, Julie, you might need a site visit, and we don't mind coming on farm to assess a farm. There's no obligation. to have a look and a conversation, maybe price the job up. So just because you inquire, you know, obviously you're not obliged to do anything, but sometimes you just need to get on farm to see what'll work. But what we do, and we did it a good bit during COVID, is clients would have sent us in videos of their yards and setups, and we look at the video, and to be fair, if that worked quite well, you can see a lot if you take your time in recording it and a bit of an explanation. Sometimes you can make a judgment just by getting the WhatsApp of a video. So look, that's an option too. If you we'll have contact details up at the end, so if you want to or call the office and send in a video, we can give you a very quick estimation of whether we think it'll work or not. Conor, I think that's the most of the questions. There's a lot of similar questions asked, but I think we've answered. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. I also want to thank Derek O'Halloran, Dennis Condren, Mervyn Glendenning for their testimonials and for giving up at their time. These guys didn't get much notice. Mervyn was called maybe half an hour before we started recording, so fair play to him. We were going somewhere else and it fell through, and he took the call, and fair play to him, appreciate that. I also want to thank William Conlon for putting everything together, and he's our own in-house Stephen Spielberg, so really appreciate his efforts, and Sean Callan as part of the backroom team and helping coordinate everything. So appreciate your time, appreciate your attention. If anyone wants any further information, if you just call the office here in Mullingar, Lely Centre, Mullingar, we'll be delighted to talk to you, and we look forward to meeting you sometime in the future. Thank you very much.